gallery. Do we want to go for gallery or full screen?
That's your choice. You can look at both of them. I use gallery.
We're gonna be going live any second now.
Okay.
Okay, we are live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Police Off the Cuff After Hours. My name is Mark DeMeo. Along here with me is my co-host, my partner in all things law enforcement, Bill Cannon. What's up, Bill?
Doing well. I'm very excited about tonight's guest.
Yeah, we have a great guest tonight. She is the founder of K9s4COPS. She's here to tell us all about it. Give her, wherever you are, wherever you're situated, give her a round of applause. Kristi Schiller, folks. Let her feel the love. Let her feel. Hi, Kristi.
Hey, Kristi,
Hi.
Is the second K for Canine or what?
Yeah, exactly. It's Kristi K.
All right. I thought you were in the KKK. So Kristi, you have done some phenomenal work on behalf of law enforcement, not only in this country, but also abroad. France is one of the countries that you helped out too. We're going to talk about what happened, why you got involved, and how important the dogs are. I think we all know how important canines are, especially if you travel to the airport. I don't have any drugs on me when I go through the airport, but for some reason I still get scared. So
I don't help. Although TSA needs me desperately,
uh-huh.
I don't have anything to do with federal or TSA. But I sometimes think when I walk through there and I watch the way they work their dogs, it's purely for show.
You might be right. I hope so. But hopefully our show will catapult you into maybe you could hook up and get that contract, that federal contract.
Sometimes think when I walk through.
She's not looking. Mark, this is a charity. She's not looking for money.
No. Well, it's people donate to the charity though.
That's true.
That's how basically that's you got a
501c3.
501c3. And the dogs are fascinating. I think Bill wants to show a video. So basically we could I think you're going to show the Steve Harvey video.
Yep.
Yeah, this is so cool. I actually got choked up watching it.
There's a wife and a mom who saw a need in her community and did something about it. She now works tirelessly providing trained police dogs to departments across the country. Please welcome the founder of K9s4COPS and today's Harvey's hero. Please welcome Kristi. Hi, Kristi. So, Kristi, tell us about K9s4COPS.
K9s4COPS just celebrated their 4th year. We give, as you said, we give trained canine dogs to law enforcement agencies. And people just don't realize, Steve, the level of ninja that they do. It's not just find narcotics, maybe go into a fire afterwards, chase down a bad guy, find a missing child. That they do so much more to provide a layer of protection to keep our streets safe.
Wow. Why is it so hard for police departments and departments to get these canines?
Budget costs. We feel that at K9s4COPS that your safety shouldn't be hindered. Your streets should not be less safe because of a budget cut. In Houston alone, in the past 3 years, our canines resulted in over 400 arrests, taken $3.5 million worth of cash off the streets, over 85 weapons. We had one dog in one night do a $23 million bust. Why would you not want that for your department?
Where did you get this idea for all of this?
4 years ago, it was at Christmas time, and I was just thinking to myself, the holidays and paying it forward, and I saw in the news that a canine officer lost his dog in the line of duty. So I called the county and I called some politicians and I said, I want to give a dog anonymously. They said, well, it's not that easy and there's a lot of red tape. Well, I realized, I started doing my homework. It's $10,000 to $15,000 a dog. It can go up to $30,000 for a specialized dog. And I couldn't turn my back on the fact that there was not an agency in the United States that did this. And now we're in 25 states and we've given 90 dogs.
90 dogs. Wow. Well, you know, Kristi, you've helped so many communities out there with your hard work. There are actually some folks who want to thank you. So come on out. Here they come. Well,
He was my inspiration. He's the one that lost his dog. His dog saved his life in the line of duty. And now he's...
Amazing.
That's beautiful.
It was a fun day. They totally had me rooked. I had no idea. I kept thinking to myself, why are people what's wrong with
got
it?
something
Why
that
are
you
people
wanna say to
taking their
Kristi?
kids
Go
out of
for it.
school to watch a
Just
talk
set out
show?
my canine partner.
Now he tells a story of how, and maybe we could see a story later, of how he lost his dog in the line of duty, which is really, he's very emotional about it, right?
Yes.
And that was what drove you to get involved in K9s4COPS, right?
I just was, I had no law enforcement background. I was just walking literally in front of the TV 2 days before Christmas. And the sound was off. And I saw this officer and he was crying. And I turned up the TV and I only caught the tail end of it. And he said, you know, he saved my life doing what he was trained to do. And he gave his life for me. And I'm still kind of confused to what happened. And the gentleman looked about my age. I figured, gosh, he probably has children, you know, my little girl's age. And now he's got to go home and tell them that, you know, the dog's not coming home or that daddy was almost killed. I can only imagine. I didn't know the story, what led up to it, but I was determined to find out. And I told my husband, I said, I want to give that officer a dog. And he said, do you know him? I said, no. I said, I want to give it anonymously because I think that's how you get picked for jury duty. And so I started calling around, trying to figure out what department it was. I had no idea we had that many entities of law enforcement in Houston. And Metro Police, Rail Police, ISD, constables, sheriffs, you know, HPD, all the different venues. And I figured a dog was probably $1,000. I mean, I had no idea. Well, they're a little more than that. And so somebody said, you can't give to a general fund and determine where that money goes. And, you know, you need to find out if they're going to have a rally, you know, to raise money for the dog. Well, I mean, the dog had just died.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and they said, somebody high up told me, you know, look, that department has a lot of money. They probably don't need the money. I said, who doesn't? Warren Buffett needs money to do what he does. I mean, that's asinine. And it was a one of the largest constable units here. Do you have constables in New York?
No.
Okay.
We have
But you're familiar.
sheriffs. We have police departments. We have sheriffs. We have marshals, but we don't have constables.
Well,
And troopers. We have troopers too.
Troopers. This constable unit, you know, covers a district. I guess we have in Harris County, there's 8 different districts for constable units. And that particular one was about, I don't know, 750 in that department. And I found out that they had gone in and it's at Christmas and these young gentlemen were breaking into patio homes around a golf course and they were stealing Christmas presents when people would leave.
Oh, wow.
And so they had narrowed it off. They had, you know, done a perimeter, got in, and he'd sent his dog. And so he said, look, you know, at that point, they pretty much had them where they wanted them. But he said, I needed to get my dog. I couldn't see. It was late at night and I'm trying to call him with an e-collar. And he said, my captain came out and he just had the empty collar. And the guys had killed the dog.
Wow.
And they said they didn't know it was a police dog, never mind the vest he was wearing that said Canine unit. But you know, they killed the dog, and it just broke my heart because it's Christmas time. They don't get hazard pay for, you know, going in at Christmas. And, you know, I mean, it really tore at my heart. And I was involved in a lot of philanthropic things, but none of them really did it for me. I mean,
You know, Kristi,
the ballet is never going to run out of money.
Kristi, I just want to
Right.
say, one of the guys in the live chat, a gentleman named Dwight Mays, Kristi funded a canine for my department when our program was floundering. She has the biggest heart I've ever seen. What she has done is phenomenal.
Oh, I love him.
We have a bunch of people that are tuning in right
How
now.
can I see them?
They wanted to say hello and let us know they're listening to us tonight. We got Michael Merculi. I retired as a lieutenant with 25 years on the job. You guys have an amazing show. We Whites 44. I agree, Lieutenant. We need more law enforcement podcasters. And Pete Pranzo is tuned in, and he says Kristi has a great platform, great cause. And Bill mentioned Dwight Mays. Also, MC Audio. Good evening, folks. Thanks for your service. We got a bunch of people. We have people from Nashville. Lee Terry. I made a contribution in honor of Laverne PD K9 Sajak killed by gunmen trying to kill his partner.
Fantastic.
So yeah, you have a big following here. Scott Wagner.
You know, Kristi, one of the things that we just like to say as retired members of the service from the NYPD is last year was the toughest year probably in the history of law enforcement for cops nationally, not just in New York City. And when someone like yourself is doing God's work like this, it's very touching.
Well, so when I started there, the governor's office told me, they said, look, just send the money to us and we'll find somebody that can use it. I mean, it just wasn't as tactile.
He sounds
as
like
I
a
wanted.
Democrat.
No, actually he's Republican. Rick Perry. Shout out to Rick Perry. So his chief of staff told me, look, go on and find a charity that does this and just write a check in that officer's honor. Okay, well, that seemed one solution. So I started looking, and I was 3 days wide awake, and I couldn't find a charity that did this in the United States. And so I told my husband, I said, look, I have to start a charity. Or, you know, he said, what do you know about law enforcement? I mean, I don't know. You graduate high school and they give you a gun when you open your first, it's Texas. I mean, it's the Wild West out here.
It's a little different, than New York. That's for sure.
Exactly. So I said, I just want to make a difference. And my intention was just to be able to give to that one department and maybe any other local departments in Houston area that needed them. And I said, maybe one day we'll be able to give as far as like Austin and Dallas in a few years. Well, within 3 months, I was in Dubuque, Iowa, was my first one. And now we're in 42 states and Europe.
That's
So-
unbelievable.
Let me ask you, they use, it looks like they mostly use German Shepherds.
No, well, it depends on what they need. We've given all kinds, but when
I was looking at the pictures on your website and the dogs that retired. And I think that's so that really choked me up. I don't know
we use a lot of Belgian Malinois,
what did you
which
say?
is in the Shepherd family.
Oh, okay. But how many years of service do you usually get out of a K9 dog?
A Mal is going to usually go a little longer than a German Shepherd because they're not as big. If you're familiar with a Mal, they are the dog that got Osama bin Laden, or that you see the SEALs jump out of the plane. That's a Belgian Malinois. And, they can go up to 35 miles an hour, and
Wow.
they're really smart and they're really fast. And if a situation arises that they could need to pick up that dog and, take them out of the line of fire or into somewhere, a SWAT situation, I find that my departments, now a lot of them still do use German Shepherds, but they've really kind of drifted over to the Malinois.
You know, we both were 9/11 first responders, and we were amazed at those cadaver dogs.
That cadaver dog, her name was Brittany. She just passed away. I'm sure there's more than one, but she was trained and she is part of Texas Task Force 1. I live 10 miles from Texas A&M University, and Texas Task Force 1 is based here.
Do you make the dogs in Texas wear cowboy hats?
Yeah, they're always packing some. But when I started the charity, I thought to myself, you know, I started trying to learn everything I could about law enforcement. And I realized, you know, look, if you want to be part of SWAT, you have to train X amount of hours a week or a month. If you even want to use a baton or a laser, you have to train X amount of hours a month. There's no standardized guideline for canine. And, you know, having a live animal by your side that's supposed to either have your back or you go in behind them, that's just one other thing that can go wrong. And so I'm very proud to say we not only give the dog, but we give the training to the handler and the dog throughout the lifetime of their career. And
How
we've
long is
given
the career?
over 100,000 hours of training.
Wow.
How long is a police dog's career usually?
You know, we have, I would say 10 is going to be your cutoff.
10 years of service.
Yeah, but it averages probably about 8.5 to 9.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. That's good. I mean, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of the
You know,
dogs.
sometimes accidents happen or, you know, I mean, things that are beyond your control, but, you know, they may tear an ACL or break a tooth and eating a Scooby snack, certainly not another human being.
Well,
And
you know,
so in 2012, I watched when the rest of the country did, when Sandy Hook happened, and my heart was broken. And I was flying to Oklahoma City that morning, and I got off the plane, and the airport there is not very big, and I could see these people gathered around TVs, and they were crying. And I tried to get up to see what was going on, and I asked somebody what happened, and they said a gunman went in Connecticut and shot up a school. And you know, my heart was broken. And they said it was a lot of kindergartners when my little girl was in kindergarten at the time. And so, you know, now I'm in tears. I go downstairs to get my baggage claim, and I see two officers talking, and one is a canine officer, and he's got a lab. So I usually try to carry some kind of swag, a coin or a hat or a bracelet, you know, anything. Hey, if you don't know about us, you know, here's my card. If you ever need any help, let me know. And I felt like everybody was looking at us. And but in a weird way. So the pillars, you know, the suspension pillars that are where the baggage claim is, the load bearing beams. There was a man, we couldn't see him, but standing behind there, and he had the Middle Eastern, the long white gown. That's called anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The man jammies.
Pajamas?
Yeah. Well, everybody wasn't looking at me. They were looking at the two cops, like, stop flirting with the blonde, you know, this guy's over here.
Do your job, officer.
As he steps out, then we could see him, and he was reaching down for his luggage. And so the young officer says, "Oh, duty calls." Well, I'm like, should I stay? Because this part is where it gets fascinating to me, not just giving the dog. How do they approach somebody to not be defensive? How do they approach somebody and say, you know, basically, this is for your protection too? You know, there was some big Midwestern rancher type guys in there that looked like they would have solved the problem on their own. So I can't really hear what they're saying. And I'm a little concerned that, you know, if it's Al-Qaeda, am I going to blow up? And then I thought, well, they don't take Southwest and they don't take layover, so I'm probably okay. So I tried to get as close as I could, and I could see, you know, they were making all these Vanna White moves, and he was in agreement. Please, you know, open my bag. Well, when he went to go put the bag down, I saw that he had an Aggie ring on. And so I thought, okay, we're safe. So we have a campus, Texas A&M has a campus in Qatar. And so I figured immediately he had to be a visiting professor. And so he shook their hand, they went through it, everything was okay, people were watching, and you immediately felt the tension come down in the room. And so I run back over and I said, I just have to know, I'm profiling or guessing, was he a professor and he'd come in, is he teaching at University of Oklahoma or OSU? And they said, do you know him? And I said, no, I don't know him. I said, but I noticed he had an Aggie ring on. He said, really? How could you tell? And I said, well, we're Aggies. We're trained for stuff like that in our house. And I realized at that moment, we just given him as a visiting person on US soil, we just given him more protection than we had granted those children in Newtown. And I thought, why are we not putting a dog, ideally with a returning veteran that has some canine experience, in every school?
That's
and
a good idea.
I went to, well, thank you. I went to Washington, D.C., and I said, look, all of y'all can steal the idea. I just need help to get it going. And so they said, well, we don't know. Would it really, what if a child was allergic to a dog? I said, well, I've never met anybody that's not allergic to shrapnel.
Yeah.
And if you have a better plan, I'll help you raise money for it. But right now, a fool in the room with a plan is better than the smartest guy in the room with no plan.
You're absolutely correct.
I'm telling you, this could work. Well, we have to get this bill passed, and this takes so long, and this takes so long. And so I started it on my own. And I'm very proud to say that, so we started it in 2013, and we now protect 2.7 million kids a day in school.
That's amazing.
Well, we got some other people tuning in right now. Lee,
how can I see the other people? Is it blocked?
You'd have to have the show on your cell phone.
Like we got it on the phone here because we're live. Lee Terry from Nashville. Kristi, please keep K9 Quinn. Please give K9 Quinn a hug for me. And I'll never forget the day I was in 7th grade down in New Haven when it happened. So that's by MC Audio. Dwight Mays. Kristi took the law enforcement lesson seriously. She learned very early on that you can't ride around all over Texas without a valid DL. I don't know what that is. What is a DL?
Driver's license. I went 5 years without one.
I met the chief from Newtown. I used to teach at a college after I retired from the police department. And he came, we had an active shooter symposium, and he came to speak. And he was the most amazing guy. He was affected by it, but he talked about how his cops all have tremendous PTSD,
right?
From seeing 12 5-year-olds shot to death, plus I think another 2 or 3 teachers.
Yes.
So they went into that school, and
there was over 20 killed that day.
Yeah, horrendous. But to see 5-year-olds
right
killed by an active shooter has got to leave an imprint on your brain that never goes away.
It's absolutely devastating because, do I think that a dog is going to run in and put on a Superman cape and hold the guy down till he gets there? Probably not. Could a dog perish? Yes, unfortunately he could, but that's what he's trained to do. No different than if it were in Afghanistan. And I just think that brave teacher that gathered her students and got them out, and yet she perished. She only needed an extra 10 seconds.
Right.
That was it. And so you can't tell me that somebody like a Ford Motor Company or, a Gates Foundation or somebody can come in and say, and it's also teaching how to spot one of these active shooters. I mean, what's in the making? Is somebody angry? Are they wearing dark colors? Are they reclusive from the other students? I mean, there's, all kinds of things that you have to look for. And I hope and pray every day that our country turns around. But when they have these, today we're going to pray for what happened. It's not fixing the situation.
But your idea to have dogs in the schools is a tremendous idea, because many people don't want armed teachers. They don't want armed security guards, but having dogs in the school, I think that's a tremendous idea.
Yeah, even if it was a dog that went around from school to school. So if you had 5, 10 schools in a certain area,
Yes, that I do that as
get
well.
on with you start early in the morning and you do it, you don't go to the same school at the same time. You change it up every day and you go visit the schools and you just do a walk around with the dog and it gets to sniff out and check stuff out. And I think everybody feels a little bit more comfortable, even the kids for that matter.
Absolutely. And they get so excited. Well, it was about 2 or 3 years ago. I was at a conference, a K9 conference in Memphis, and I took my guys with me that helped me through this. And they both are officers in Houston. And Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, familiar with?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. He was speaking and he's very animated and he has the red Sharpies and, he said, why are we calling them just shootings? They're massacres, and there's a couple hundred people in the room. We're all just hanging on the edge of our seat. And he said, to have a dog in a school is brilliant. And I look at my guys, and of course the theater where we're sitting in is dark. You can only see him up on the stage. And he said, kudos to the lady that, started that program. I'm not thinking it's me. And I'm hitting my guys. And now I'm starting to almost cry. And I said, see, you told me to be quiet. They all told me, don't blast this out like you did K9s4COPS, because somebody's going to say, this will never work. You need to quietly do it. And then when you hit the 2 million that you're protecting and they say it will never work, you say, well, I've been doing it for 4 years. And this is why it does work. So now I've got tears in my eyes. And he said, look, if some blonde that was in Playboy can sit in carpool line and come up with this idea, he goes, what is everybody doing on Capitol Hill that they can't come up with the idea? They should get behind. And I was like, he's talking about me. He didn't know me. So after another hour and a half of his talk, I can't even sit in my seat. I'm like a little 4-year-old on sugar. And I run up to him and I said, hi. I said, I'm me. And he goes, okay. I said, no, I'm the lady in the
I'm the dog lady. I'm the
dog lady. And he just said, I have to have a picture with you. And I was like, are you kidding? Really? But he was there, he lived in, he was there for Columbine because he lived, like 20 or 30 miles away.
Aurora, Colorado.
Yes.
Right.
And
Harrison Klebold.
Yes. Dylan Klebold.
Yeah. That's what the names.
And, I have a lot of people on my board that are just a wealth of information. Dr. Marisa Randazzo, that was the lead psychiatrist for the Secret Service for 10 years and threat assessments, and especially against children. And Phil Houston from the CIA that wrote the book, Spy the Lie. And they said an active shooter will think twice before he goes. They all want to be Dylan Klebold. They all want to die suicide by cop. They're martyrs, but they want to have the longest Wikipedia page. And so I got up and spoke at the Capitol in Texas. And I said, look, I said, I know a lot of people that do. I know a lot of people that do for a living that probably shouldn't.
In New York, we call that being strapped.
Well, I said, this arming teachers is a really bad idea. And, we know as a surgeon, as a pilot, that you shouldn't take any type of anything chemically that's going to imbalance you 24 hours out before you perform your task. Well, nobody knows when there's going to be an active shooter. So let's say she's gone out with her girlfriends the night before celebrating somebody's bachelorette party. And she says, oh my gosh, it's midnight. I have to go home. I have to grade papers. And she's taking Adderall. She's taking Prozac. She says, I'm just going to take a half an Ambien because I have to do carpool in the morning. I got to be there at 15 till 7. And then I won't get to bed till 3. And so now she's, a walking chem lab, and her boyfriend has given her a 38 special. So this guy that's been preparing.
That doesn't sound like a Texas gun, a 38 special. I thought it'd be like a 45.
Well, no, and I'm being
or a
facetious when I say
357,
that. She's got a 38 special, but he doesn't. He's got a mini Mac, and he's got something belt fed, and he's not playing around. He's fully sponsored by HK.
I don't even know what that means, belt fed. What does that mean, belt fed?
Yeah, come to Texas, I'm telling you.
Texas knows a lot about guns, man. Holy cow. We got a couple other people that tuned in. Bill Ryan. He's one of our regular guests from the Ryan Investigative Group tuned in. Hello, Bill. And we got 12-Step Woman. Hello, Sergeant Cannon, Mark, and KK Schiller. So, yeah, you're a hot topic tonight, Kristi. In regards to the dogs, how long is the training for them?
It depends on what it is that they're training for. Anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, certifying with their trainer. So after they receive their dog, so we have, I think it's 12 vendors throughout the United States that we have bonded and vetted, and our insurance meets their insurance requirements. And so once they get their dog granted, if they live in maybe Southern California, they don't want to come all the way maybe to New York, to get a dog. It's not feasible. So they go to Adlerhorst Kennels. If they're on the East Coast, we have a wonderful vendor there, Laz Cabrero. And these are people that and we have a working and health guarantee, 2 years on each dog. So if that dog, something happens that's out of anybody's control, maybe he contracts cancer 3 or 4 months after they get him, they can go back and get a brand new dog, no questions asked.
Oh, that's great. And as far as I know, the police officers who were K9, they usually take their dogs home with them.
Yes. So they have a kennel and a setup, and we try to find, if somebody calls me and says, we are applying for a K9 and we're from the greater Chicago area. I will go on and try to find somebody that either, if I don't know, I'm about to know, and I will go to tax records and see who pays the most residential tax records, who, I'll go through the society columns. I'll go through, anywhere I can find it. And I'll reach out to these people. I have no shame.
Kristi, I think
this is sexy.
I think if dogs knew what was going on in Chicago, they would refuse to work there.
Look, and I have to say, I really admire Commissioner David Brown. He came from Dallas, and he's trying his hardest to make that work. But there's politics behind policing.
Can you imagine being in the doggy academy, and then all of a sudden you get Chicago?
Oh my God! They'd be like, "Hey, go to Chicago."
You know why?
The
the dog didn't have a hook.
Yeah, that's right.
He didn't know a rabbi. What's the matter? You didn't know a rabbi?
I'm not going to Chicago. I refuse to work there.
It's funny.
I don't like the kennels in Chicago.
You mentioned that you look through the society pages and you do all your homework on who's got the money where. You know who else used to do that when she was trying to get awareness for AIDS?
Who?
Elizabeth Taylor. That's
her.
The way she went about it. She called up all her friends and she said, you're a part of this. I need you to show up on this date. And they all did. And that's why they started finding.
I got to get a listed phone number. That's why Hollywood hasn't called me yet. I'm convinced this is a movie in the making.
Kristi, I want to just show you a clip from the gentleman that lost his dog, because it's actually very, very touching.
But because of your generosity, you got me back on the street fighting crime. I don't think people realize how much these dogs bring to the table and how much these officers and departments count on them on a daily basis. And due to people like you, thank God. Your generosity and your tireless effort that allows these guys to go out and do their job safer. And, you know, because of your passion, my dog didn't die in vain.
Wow. Kristi, you are a true hero. And so this is just a jacket. Just want to keep everybody cool. All right, here we go. And we had this made for you. This is a Harvey's Hero jacket because you are a Harvey's hero for all you do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. I like the way Steve Harvey got nervous. I'm just gonna get the jacket here. I'm telling you, I have. If I had to be honest, there's been times where I've actually gone on YouTube and just put in canine attacks and just sit back and go down that wormhole. I just love it. I love it. Sometimes, when people are resisting arrest, as a former officer, when they get the dog out, man, dogs scare people. Dogs really, they might not be as scared of a cop with a gun. I used to work in Queens, and there was a club called Trafalgar Square, right in Jamaica, Queens. And there would be 1,000 people in the street for some reason. I don't know. I didn't even know how many people were in the club, but 1,000 in the street. And they would always, every doorman had, every bouncer had a dog.
Really?
They didn't have German Shepherd, they had pit bulls. But the only way you could control the people from trying to get into the side entrance or talking about that, they'd see the guy with the dog and they would just, oh yeah, it's okay. And they would just leave. Dogs scare people, man.
We used to have to go in, Kristi, we used to have to go into a lot of apartments to do investigations. I was in homicide, and they would have like 2 man-eating pit bulls, and they'd be like, oh, no, the dog's okay. The dog don't bite. We're like, lock that dog in the bathroom. That dog loves white Irish guys. We taste great.
White Irish guys taste great.
Well, I have to tell you that I used to have, and you can see him in some of the pictures, and he's a huge German Shepherd.
Yeah, I saw those pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just had to put him down a year ago, and his name was Johnny Cash. So Johnny Cash is the only dog that's ever rang the bell.
Is that him?
Yeah, he's about 145 pounds.
Wow.
And he was the only dog that ever rang the bell opening up, on NASDAQ. So
wow.
we're staying at the Waldorf Towers, and I'm going out to take him for a break. Well, there's no place to really break a dog on the Upper East Side. I mean, it's like, there's not. Yeah, but my dog, I don't know. He just felt uncomfortable.
It's no grass. That's why it's all concrete. They used to go on grass.
Well, right. So there's right in front of the Waldorf, there's a little in the median. There's a little patch.
They call them malls.
Well, there's a little patch of grass, and I was having dinner with Bill Bratton and his beautiful wife Ricky. And he says, where do you break a dog that big? And I said, there's a little patch of grass. And I said, or you can go to Central Park with your dog. You can take him off leash like before 9 or 8 in the morning, something like that. And he goes, but no, there's a sign there and it's got the dog that you can't. I go, yeah, that doesn't apply to us. Well, as I'm walking back and the grates and things that y'all have on the sidewalk, all of a sudden I hear and I see, I guess, what would it be behind? Would it be Madison? If you're on Park, Madison, if you went down the side, anyway, so I can see these lights, going, and I see this guy running and they're chasing this guy. And then there's another cop car coming on the side. Well, my dog just takes off. And he's got the leash and I can't catch him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, those guys are going to shoot my dog. And he was so excited. And so he's running and I see from every direction as I have to take my heels off and I'm running. And the doorman from the Waldorf is running with me. And I'm like, don't shoot my dog. He speaks Dutch. And that the guy that they were catching threw his hands up and he goes, "That thing's a wolf." He goes, "Get him. Don't get him close to me. Take me in, take me in."
You know what's funny about city dogs? If you bring a city dog out to the country, they don't know where to go because
Yeah.
there's no concrete.
Yeah. I don't know how people do it with big dogs in New York.
No, the dogs get used to the concrete in the city. If they're all on grass, they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They're looking for concrete.
Yeah, but it's tough to have a dog like as big as Kristi's in an apartment, you know?
Yeah, I saw somebody I know. Well, I see them every day. They have a pig, and the pig weighs like 250 pounds, and it's in their apartment with them.
That's
They walk the pig in the
ridiculous.
street. They
They're
walk the
hoarding
pig
dead
in the
bodies.
street. It's a huge. It's got to be 250 pounds. This pig, and it lives in an apartment with them. So there are big dogs in the city. Not a lot. Not as many as if you had a big property in the country. But there are big
Must
dogs.
be one of those, what do you call them? Rent fixed apartments?
Rent controlled, yeah.
Rent control.
They have their
Rent
own pig. Man, those people are pigs. No,
Yeah,
they have a
grandfathered
pig.
But I want to say it's like each borough has to have like 80 dogs or something. Is that right?
In the NYPD,
Yeah.
I don't think they have that many dogs. No, I
Me
don't think
neither.
You've
so.
got a lot of dogs.
You know, they have bomb squad dogs. They're usually Labradors, and then they have German Shepherds that are for guns and for searches and stuff like that. And then they have they only have the cadaver dogs when there's a major event. But I think it's
I got my first cadaver last week.
Your cadaver. You mean your dog got it?
My dog did. Yes, not me. It
What
was
did
in
he-
Chicago, and it had been submerged in water, I think like 9 or 10 days.
Wow.
And it was 20 feet down inside of a car. And that dog got it. I was so excited. I mean,
Did the dog dive into the water?
no, I mean, I wasn't there. I had pictures how they did it, but it emits a gas when, the body emits a gas. And I'm
Right.
sure it's not like a bubble, but that gas, once it comes up, necessarily isn't coming straight up from where the body is.
Right.
And
Well,
so,
do you know why they call a body in the water a floater? And I actually learned this from Harbor. When someone drowns in a river, they drop straight down, and they pretty much stay there. Because we had scuba one time dive and look for a body, and after a couple of days, as you say, the gases build up, and the body floats to the surface, and then it floats down the river. Thus, the name floater. So people can actually learn something from listening to the show too. But they get a lot of floaters in New York after the ice thaws, the bodies that were frozen, and it thaws out and then they float down the river.
now when y'all were having all the riots and everything in New York, I didn't see a lot like SRT or SWAT. I didn't see a lot of canines, and I kind of wondered why
They
that
didn't
was.
use canines, they didn't use mounted, they didn't use aviation, because the police were told to give a soft touch to the rioters.
Well, the idea wasn't to stop or quelch any of it. The idea was to keep it going and try to make a scene. So anything that could squelch it or stop it, you weren't allowed to use it. And that's according to our administration here. And we kept it, probably, I think we had, Bill would disagree with me, but we had 3 or 4 days where it was steady riots. And then it broke up, and then periodically you'd have one skirmish here, or every other day you'd have something that happened. But it wasn't, as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't anything like other states, like Oregon or Minneapolis or
I don't know. LA had some pretty bad stuff.
Minnesota. I meant, Portland or Minnesota, where they had, and LA too. Yeah, we could definitely use. I think every officer should have a dog. I think in the future we'll probably have a robot, but for right now we could use a dog.
I don't think that they would ever let them use dogs during riots, because they don't like the look of it,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it takes
Historically,
it back to Alabama and Georgia.
Right, exactly.
Historically, there's been really, time in life they made sure that we don't use canines during riots. Those pictures during the civil riots, back then were. a picture paints 1,000 words, and it didn't look good. It wasn't a good look. It was as good as when you get the nightstick over your head like this. It's
we were taught just to poke. Don't do that.
yeah.
No one can film a poke.
But you see them now, and as I did the rest of the country, if you're familiar with New York, but like where the Chanel store is, the Hermes store, they were just beating them. I mean, trying to break out the windows, and it's just like,
where those stores were, they're
Yeah.
not there anymore.
For us as retired officers watching, one of the most horrible things I saw was a lieutenant get hit in the head with a brick. And if he didn't have
I
a
saw
helmet,
that.
if he didn't have a helmet on, he'd be dead today because,
Right.
and then the moronic mayor of de Blasio tried to suspend the cop that pulled his gun on the guy who did that. And then the media shows it. They show the guy pull the gun before that happened, trying to get the cop in trouble, So it's disgraceful. The media is disgraceful, but that's why we're on the air, to dispel what the things that the media reports.
Well, Texas, you're
Defund the police is actually the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard.
Right, exactly.
well,
Don't get us started.
when you speak about defund the police, I mean, obviously you're a nonprofit, but God forbid it was in the hands of, you'd never see another dog again.
Right.
So what you're doing right now, because you're a nonprofit and because the dogs are coming from an outside source, there's no way to really, well, I'm sure they could find a way, because that's what they do. The cancel culture, they would look to destroy what you're doing. But defund the police, they would get rid of all the dogs immediately. Anything that could help a police officer do his job and not get hurt.
Well, I have to say, I can't speak for any place else that I've ever lived, but Texas, and especially Houston, we have a mayor, Sylvester Turner, that completely backs his police chief, Art Acevedo. We have a wonderful sheriff, Ed Gonzalez, and that the county commissioners, want to make sure that they support him. And we never had any of that.
That's why everybody's moving there right now.
Yeah, right.
But the problem is a lot of people that you're going to get right now are going to be people who are voting over here for this guy, the mayor, and this guy, the governor. They're scared. They're going to lose their money, so they're fleeing to you. But they're not going to change the way they vote. They're too dumb to do that. And, too much of a cow. So that's the only thing I fear. You get all these people fleeing from these big cities. Doesn't change their vote.
Yeah, I think Texas is getting a lot of people fleeing California. So
That's not
Elon
good.
Musk. Yeah.
they could flip the red state to a blue state before you know it.
Oof. Yeah.
Now, Texas, it would be really hard to do. Now, all the major cities, I think it's safe to say, have turned blue. But we have enough outer lying areas. There's 30 million people that live in Texas. And, we have ranches here that are bigger than the state of Rhode Island.
Wow.
So, it's hard to take that, patriotic ranching mentality and that you're going to flip it the other way.
Well, I hope so. I hope so for your sake, because, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee seems like another place that most people are flocking to. Florida.
Well, because of the taxes.
Taxes, and also because of the quality of life, and because of the fact that, they believe they still have some semblance of law and order. I just worry about these people that move there, and in abundance, because they're taking all the money from these big cities and they're taking it with them. And when you get the money, you're traveling with your money, you become an influence as well. So I'm hoping that it doesn't change things, because they're like roaches, they destroy it.
Look at the firearms companies that are moving. I mean, they're leaving.
Yeah, I think they moved out of New York because Cuomo was an anti-Second Amendment guy, and I forgot, maybe it was Smith and Wesson moved out of New York. It's like
one moved to Alabama. Was it Remington? Maybe moved.
Yeah,
Alabama.
it could be. Yeah.
And then I think HK is going to Tennessee.
Well, they paint with a broad brush. Chicago's getting 20 to 30 people shot every weekend, at least 10 to 12 murdered, and their response to that is to take the guns away from law-abiding gun owners. like you got a gun problem. It's not with the people that have permits, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's actually backfiring over there in Portland because now they're asking for help. They've raised the white flag. They're looking for help from every county, every municipality that's nearby.
They legalized all the drugs. So the
Yeah, but the
plastic
problem is they
straw,
make
you
the
can't
drugs
use.
free. They
Huh?
should have made the drugs free. If you're going to legalize the drugs, then make the drugs free. So this way they don't have to look for them. This way they don't have to steal from them. Just give them the drugs. We waste so much money on rehab over here and all this nonsense that doesn't work. Every single drug addict should get a one-way ticket to Oregon, and that should be the state where they all live. And
Yeah,
let
you can
all-
use a plastic straw and get fined, but you're not going to get in trouble for the 8-ball that you're snorting up your nose. But if you use a plastic straw to do it with, by
Right,
God,
you're in
that's
trouble. You know, Kristi, Mayor Bloomberg, who was the mayor of New York for 12 years, he actually put the
I
bull on
thought he
the.
would have made a great president.
Well, you know, he's a very smart guy, but
Yeah,
he had a policy when he was mayor. He would give any homeless person a one-way ticket to anywhere in the country. But that was one way.
Yeah,
Like,
you know
when
what?
come back.
I think he got caught in the headlights, though, man. He didn't look that good on that debate, that's for sure.
No.
Very shrewd. If I were the Democratic Party, I would have gotten behind
Unfortunately,
him. And he kind of caught grief over was it Eric?
Stop this. Well, he caught grief over
Stop, don't
question
shoot,
and
right?
frisk.
Yeah.
more grief because he didn't back it. He should have, if you're going to do it, own it. If he would have went the law and order route, he would have gotten all the votes, on whichever side he was on. He had 3 terms here, and the last 4 was his downfall because things were going so good, and he just didn't take the foot off the pedal. You got to tell, we had 300 homicides. We were a city of, I don't know, 8 million, 11 million people. It's like you can't get any lower than that. It really is. People are going to, every once in a while, they're going to freak out and kill each other. And we were still doing a lot of stuff that we probably shouldn't have been doing. Should have probably like put a halt to it, stop, question, and frisk, tossing people. It worked. It was an effective tool for a long time. But at some point, you got to let people breathe. And that's the problem. People weren't able to breathe. It was the opposite. You had 8 years of Giuliani, 12 years of Bloomberg. That's why we got the crime down so low here. And now within
less than 8 years, he's turned the city into a bag of shit, this guy.
it's been the second term. The second term is always the killer.
But to be voted in twice.
Yeah, but
That's amazing
votes
too.
over
Like
here
the
for mayor.
electorate voted this moron in twice.
But
That's
nobody voted for, like, it's the second term where people do the most damage. And during the first term, he was kind of sort of like, I don't know, riding around, kind of sort of looked like he was backing the police sometimes, even though they hated him. It's the second term that really, like, they destroyed it with the bail reform. And
So who's going to run in this next election?
there's a million.
There's a
I
whole
think I
group
might-
of other de Blasios.
I
There's
think
a whole
Bill
list of them.
and I might run as a joint team. Never been done before.
Kristi, I just wanted to read something. In less than 10 years, KK's K9s have seized over $1 billion in contraband and have given law enforcement officers over 100,000 certified training hours. And then you mentioned Sandy Hook, and now dogs currently protect over 2.7 million students. And in 2014, K9s4COPS was named fan favorite at the 125th Rose Bowl parade. Amazing.
Yeah, that was nice. That Rose Bowl, the way they honored the float with the dog on it.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
That was
You did a great job here. And it's funny that, like that the funding wasn't there for the dogs. I don't even know how they got it before you.
No, the first department I ever gave to was Harris County Sheriff's Department in Houston. And I mean, here they're covering 5.5 million people, the greater area. And they had 2 dogs, and one was 9 and one was 10, and one had cancer, and they were still working it.
Oh, good.
And now I think I've given them like 40 something dogs.
That's amazing. Where do you go from here with this program? You're going to keep expanding, or is it at the biggest? it's
Pray
ever
that
gonna
some
be?
billionaire angel's watching. And he says, I want to get involved.
Well, do you have active fundraisers, or people just see your website and they donate to your website?
Well, it's been really hard since COVID. I mean, you can't really fundraise. You try to do it virtually,
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, it's very, very difficult. And look, I run it out of my house. So basically everything given goes straight back to the dogs. We don't have a big staff. We don't have a big overhead. Then again, nobody's getting their name on the side of a building, but oh well.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But it's just, we've had some people, like I was on like a Fox News or something in Washington, DC, and a lady saw, our story and said, I want to will you my house when I die.
Wow.
I have no heirs. I mean, so it's things like that you go, gosh, okay, well, I'm doing something right. Because sometimes, I mean, since there's no playbook to go by, and when I started doing this, I just assumed that, not that I wanted to reinvent the widget, but I would come in and I'd say, I'd really like to learn about this. Can you drop what you're doing and teach me? Because I'd like to help. And in the beginning, it's like people are, when they say, at first they'll laugh at you and then they'll copy you, and then everybody will say, oh, we've been friends since forever.
Right.
So I can remember going into some of these departments, and I remember Bratton asking me, do you ever get bullied? Because it's kind of a male dominated. And I said, you know what? I bet I have, and I just don't know it. I mean, I'm not sure if I have or not, but now that you say it, I guess, yeah, I can think of a few times.
It must be tough to find out who controls the money at a police department,
Yes.
It's such a bureaucracy that
I've got a PhD in county commissioners and city managers and mayors, and who wants to get the kudos, and whose idea would it be? I mean, at this point, I don't even care. That's fine.
Right.
You want all the credit? I don't care. But it's just about getting that word out. And then, what we do is floor plan the department. So it is a lifetime lease. I never want the dog back, but just in case there's something nefarious going on, they're using our dogs to run loads for the cartel.
Right.
Or something like that. I can step in and say, yeah, read paragraph 7, line 2. Are you going to bring me my dog back?
I want my dog back. How about bloodhounds? No bloodhounds?
No. And I think just because it's, there's dogs out there, the mouths can smell just as good, and they do it 10 times faster.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think bloodhounds are sweet looking.
Yeah.
This guy, he asked the question, how many years is it typical for canine dogs to serve as officers? 12-step woman asked this. I think we covered that already. What you just say, like, if you're lucky,
up to 10 years.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And they,
I had a department last week that I tried to give them a new dog, and they said, oh, well, we have one and it works really well. And I said, okay, well, single purpose, dual purpose, single purpose. I said, well, can I ask how old it is? We didn't give the original dog. And he says, it's going to be 14 in March. I said, do you roll it out on casters?
Yeah. It's so funny that you would talk to somebody and they would give you an answer like that instead of just saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They know the bureaucracy they have to go through to have it approved, and they have to decide, do they really want the fight?
There is, I'll be the first one to tell you, there's a lot of paperwork that's involved, people signing off on the dumbest bureaucracy. It starts in the police department, man. Everybody's got to sign off. I used to produce a show where I wanted to give money, a comedy show for the Women's and Children's Fund. And the hoops that I used to have to jump through. I'm talking about everybody. My sister had to scratch it, which means she had to sign off on it. It was just so stupid. And I'm like, I'm just trying to raise money for the Widows and Children's Fund and, have a fun night with comedy. So there is that all around the country, unfortunately. But
I had a major department I had a donation for them that a lady said, I want this $300,000 to go to the town where I live, but I don't want them, and it was a very large department, and I don't want them to know it's me and blah, blah, blah. They wanted me to sign a release that if a dog bit anybody, never mind that I'm not there, I don't train the dogs, anything, that the bad guy could sue me.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Yeah, let me have the piece of paper. I'll sign that. Yeah,
it's so weird that just trying to relinquish liability on something that's you're projecting. Oh, it's so horrible. And when you think about how useful they are, from holding police officers from not getting assaulted. If a police officer has a dog, or a dog shows up at the scene, most people
I always say that dog doesn't care how you vote, who you know, who your daddy is, how you voted, whatever. They just want that tennis ball. That's all they want. To them, that's the ultimate end goal.
And they get compliance. They
never are hungover. They never ask for overtime.
No.
They never said, I took an Ambien last night, I slept in.
How about what's their pension package like though once they retire? How many doggy bones do they get?
Slim to none and slim.
What's instead of
out of town.
Instead of like a 457 or a pension, they get like a certain amount of doggy bones a day and a certain amount.
I would love for even a dog food company to sponsor our guys. I mean,
did you try that?
Yeah, God knows I've tried it.
And what happened?
It just, get it in the budget. And I'm like, so you'll give to Westminster, which I've nothing wrong against Westminster. I love it. I'm addicted and I watch it. But
isn't that where the owners look just like their dogs?
Yes.
Yeah.
The best
exactly like them.
So, they'll make sure that Purina, knows that they all eat Purina. But my God, if you have somebody that's just tried to carjack you and this dog's willing to go 35 miles an hour into the hood, get somebody, wouldn't that make for a better story? Or that Timmy fell in the well and this dog was able to find him because he ate Purina dog food?
Why don't you get some of these super patriots from like Starbucks, Facebook, Google?
Ben and Jerry's.
Who are those two idiots that own the ice cream? Ben and Jerry's.
I'm sure.
Just for laughs, let's ask them for money.
Yeah, that would be great to record the.
To record it, yeah. Go to Ben and Jerry there, and they're wearing the communist flag behind them.
You want to get K9 people to take back.
You have to admit this. I say that K9s is kind of the special teams. I mean, it's. The punter, the kicker, the whatever, if there's a K9 on SWAT, if there's whatever, we got to call in the K9 guy, to get this guy out. It's a sexy attribute. The guy's got the dog or woman, got the dog and, they're coming in and, we all watch the Bionic Dog or, Super Dog or Rin Tin Tin, Lassie, whatever. And how great it would be. And, you drive for, I went to Ford Motor Company and I said, look, I have an idea and I went to Penske, I went to Ford and I said, these guys are already driving Ford vehicles. And I said, but by the time you get a Ford vehicle and then, you go and you get the quote for one, you say, okay, we're going to order another 150 Fords, SUVs. But now we have to send them out to have the heat detector put in, the insert. And then, then if it has a camera in it, that has to go to another person. So how many purchase orders it has to go through? You can be weeks outfitting that car that would take 3 or 4 days. Why not do it at the factory and call it a K9 special and just get your little guy to take a thin blue line and paint it down the side and say, for every K9 unit that we sell, we give a percentage back.
Wow.
That's a great thing.
You sold me. Yeah, you know,
You'll do
I
it
think
with
a lot of
King Ranch
companies right
trucks,
now,
but you won't do it with the cops, the people that defend you. That,
a lot
you
of
know,
companies right now don't want to be
They
associated
don't
with
want to
police.
defend, they want to defund.
Yeah, they don't want to be even if they're pro cop, they don't want to be associated with it because they feel like they're going to lose a lot of money. Let's give a shout out to a couple more people. Michaelina Serino. Hi everyone. I love the K9. I think they've trained so well. Very special dogs. Great job, Kristi. Michaelina, again, so sad they got killed in the line of duty. You got a lot of fans here.
well, if anybody wants to donate, it's www.K9s4COPS.org/donate.
All right.
That's easy. That makes it really easy. You know,
But,
when I was making the flyer for this, I couldn't, I did it 4 times because I kept doing K-9
I thought you were just
S apostrophe S, and then I wrote FOUR. You were like, no, it's
I know. I said, Bill, it looks
K9.
great, but that's not our name.
You're doing a great job. I can't, what else can I say? And we also have our Patreon for those people who have enjoyed the show tonight. And you want to hear more and you want to hear other content that we have. We put up content that's exclusive for our Patreon customers. Please check out our Patreon. It's Police Off the Cuff at patreon.com. And we also would appreciate if you enjoyed tonight's show, if you just subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would help us out a lot as well. And I just want to say, Kristi, thank you for joining us tonight and giving us some of your time. You're doing phenomenal work. God bless you.
Thank you. I have to look you guys up when I come to New York, when it's safe to come back to your
That's
town.
right.
Yeah, when it's safe, you come back. We'll get you at a comedy show. But both Bill and I are comedians here in New York, and we'll definitely hook you up. Any parting words? Can you repeat the where people can donate again?
www.K9s, that's K number 9S, number 4, COPS.org/donate. And you can follow us on Twitter, and it's K9s4COPS Instagram. And we're about to launch our TikTok. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Well, somebody asked this 12-step woman if we could pretty please include the K9 funding link. So, Bill, we got to make sure that we add the link when we share
Absolutely.
this video on Facebook and on YouTube and also Instagram. Thanks again for taking the time out to spend with us and all the work that you've done on behalf of law enforcement, the lives that you've saved, the money that you've given back to police departments to fight crime. You are to be commended. Thank you so much.
Kristi, I just wanted to say in this, as I said, 2020 was one of the most horrendous years for police departments nationally. And to have someone like you have the back of police departments and say all the positive things that the police do, it's almost unpopular in a lot of places for you to be. It's almost like being patriotic. Some people don't like when you're patriotic, the hell with them. And some people don't like when you defend, DEFEND.
Just wait till a social worker comes out, somebody has a machete against their neck.
Exactly. And they won't let a social worker have a canine. Don't let a social worker have a canine.
Or a gun.
They're just for cops.
Not yet. Not yet. That would be the irony if they give them all canines before they go out so they don't have to be with cops. But all right. So thanks again for sitting down with us and chatting with us.
Hopefully, I'll come back in a few months and give you an update that because of your show, we have some amazing new corporate sponsors.
That would be great.
We're going to spread it. We're going to do our best, and we appreciate your time, and we are always welcome here. Thank you so much for what you've done.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, Kristi. Thank you so much.